welcome to the Premier Betting Show. I am your host, Tycoon, and with me, as always, is the talent, Fox. Welcome, Fox. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm fantastic. We'll go to some American football briefly. 49er fan, another big win, undefeated so far, so I'm in good spirits. Arsenal winning their Champions League debut. Debut for the year, obviously. The first match, very cleanly. First Champions League match in 6 years. It's been a long drought for this club. Feels good to be home.
That's been that long.
Yeah, you pay attention. It's not been until last year. It's not been a good ride the last few years. So supporters of this club really, really deserve this right now. I'm happy for the people of North London. So that's what we're leading into, though. So we were able to enjoy some nice high-level soccer midweek this week. Football this week. Not having to wait until this weekend again to get some more good action. Unfortunately, being at work during the day and unable to have a device to access these, I wasn't able to watch most of these full matches. Caught up as much as I could. Kept in touch with you during many of these matches to get like a feel for how they were going.
Some weird ones.
Nice. Yeah, no kidding. Especially Europa today. Like Champions League was a little bit more predictable. There were, early group stages, there's more mismatches. There was a little bit less in the way of surprises, but Europa was kind of wild today. Last week,
I think the only big one would be Milan and Newcastle. Just ending up as a draw was ridiculous, especially with it was full control for Milan, and they just could not find it. It was frustrating to watch. Like, not even as a fan of really either team, but man, if you're a fan of Milan, you're just throwing stuff at the TV towards the end there, just because they couldn't buy a goal, and it should have been that game should have been at least 5-0, at least.
I only took the draw, no bet, but my God, I'm glad I didn't actually see that play out in real time.
Oh, it was so gross. But yeah, Brighton going down today was shocking. Ruined a parlay for us, but
yeah, that I think I guess have to consider the level of that particular tournament and not have expected the form that we've seen from Brighton in the Premier League so far this year.
West Ham struggled. Yeah, West Ham struggled. Liverpool had to wake up in the second half, but I think honestly, I'll say part of it's I think field condition, mainly because just the rain and the Liverpool one, they were slipping and sliding all over the place, and I think it was partly the weather and just the field looked like shit. But some of these aren't excuses, but just it doesn't help when you're
especially when in our case, particularly viewing Premier League clubs who obviously these pitches are in pristine condition, week to week. So anything less than that is going to catch your eye. So last week we went 3-3, but of course, being smart with bets, getting some nice plus money in there, we were able to finish still plus 1.1 units, and that brings our overall record here on the Premier Betting Show to 21-11 plus 13.97 units, nearly 14. We are staying consistent, which is nice. Only 500 last week, but still profit. Unfortunately, the board this week does not look as fruitful. However, we're still confident in finding at least a couple of nuggets for you. But I would say this is, if there's a week to tread a little more lightly with your wagers, this is the one.
And I thought last week was kind of a gross board, but man, this one found a way to be worse.
Yeah, like we were discussing earlier, there's some good matches on the slate this week. But as far as betting numbers go, I don't know if they're starting to get a little sharper as the season goes along, the books, or if it's just the nature of these matchups and the locations. There's just not a lot here. Well, but instead of talking about it, let's show you two. Let's get into detail. Always one of the least interesting or at least interesting when they're playing about 15 of the 20 or 19 other clubs in the Premier League is when Man City plays. Playing Forest this week, who had a highly disappointing match last week, so rolling into the Etihad is, woof, gonna be a bad time for Forest.
Yep.
How bad, I'm not sure, but
That's when I was looking at. Like I was looking at the over 3.5 kind of intrigued me. Because I get it. You finished the season last year with a 1-1 draw, but Man City also smoked them, I think 6-0 as well. So it's kind of like, I don't think we're going to get a draw, but it could be one of those ones that they didn't play Sheffield great. So it's
could it
kind of, are
be?
they going to play down to the team they're playing
Yeah,
against a little bit here? And it's like they're obviously going to walk away with a win here. I mean, I think I'd probably lean the under still, but again, if this one's like a 4, honestly, like a 4-2 kind of game, it wouldn't shock me. But it's just, there's nothing here that's enticing. It's just, it is what it is. The both to score, yes, maybe is a little interesting, but again, it's not one I'd risk, especially after watching Forest last week.
yeah,
It,
that's where I'm at too. Because I was looking at the yes a little bit slightly intrigued, but
right.
God, after
They
watching
did
that,
not ride the high of taking the win against Chelsea anywhere.
no, crash back to earth in a freaking hurry.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, nothing here. Again, 650 money line favorites, Man City. Uh, both teams to score no if you have no confidence in Forest. Just juice to high hell at -155. Same with their spread at +2.5. Yeah, the under is only -125, which is relatively reasonable as far
Mm-hmm.
as line goes. That's something you can take, but you got to have pretty strong confidence to even go to 125, and we don't possess that for this match.
No, and that's one of those things too. With if it
Lean,
was
yes. Strong enough to put the money down on it,
no,
no.
no, and it's one of those things too. If it was a little higher, like even if it was like 140, starting to reach a little bit in that area, then I'd feel more confident that it'll actually, that's kind of where it's going to drop. But this one, it's telling me it can go either way, and I think it could. I mean, this could easily end up being like a 3-1 kind of match. It's a
Yeah,
Forest, like what happened last time. It's like Forest will knock one in, and then it's just City like we were just kidding. Like now we're gonna play football. So I don't want that. It's like
no,
poking the bear kind of thing. So I'm not here for it.
not at all.
No.
Hmm. And speaking of the aforementioned Luton Town, they host who I incorrectly referred to as Wolverhampton. Wolverton, I said last week. Wolverhampton, the Wolves. Um, so we've got plus money for either side to win. So no, if you're willing to take a stance on either team winning or a draw, you can walk away with a nice plus money win. The over under at 2.5 seems pretty sharp, frankly. I could see either way, so myself, I've got little confidence there. And the both teams to score, yes, I do like the yes, but 145 is just too juiced for
Right.
me.
Yeah. Not much here other than their Wolves is kind of like the bottom of like the middle of the pack, I guess, if you want to call them that. Luton Town's just
Yes,
struggling,
no, I totally see what you mean.
and they're both not scoring goals.
No,
So I don't think this is going to be like I do lean the under, um, but
I mean, you're
it's
right. They're both not scoring goals, but they're also both conceding at a very high rate. So it's like something's
right.
got to
So
give.
that's where I have pause. Is it should be an under, like that should smash, and but it is one of those things that they both give up plenty. But to me, this is like the better team here is Wolves, but it's not by much. And I see this just to me, I personally think this is a draw. And this is no more than a 1-1. I honestly wouldn't be shocked if no goals were scored here. kind of thing, where it's just that lousy of play because Luton Town can do it, but I just don't. I like this is where I don't see them being good enough to beat Wolves, but I see them being good enough to hang with them.
That's what I
So
can
I
see too. I
wouldn't.
mean, the draw almost seems a little interesting, but I just it's so poor from Luton Town.
Yeah. Well, and I'd look at it as kind of like it's 50-50 for either team to win.
Yeah,
So I'd rather just take the I wouldn't call it more obvious route, but the more plausible route and take the draw because I just don't think uh, I I honestly don't think Luton Town. Man, I don't see them winning anytime soon, and I don't think it's going to start here. I don't think Wolves. They're just so up and down. It's not it's not been great. So I think this is one where Wolves play down to Luton and they draw out. And it's going to be a match you don't want to put on your TV. If they don't show it anywhere, it's better off for the world not to see it.
yes,
But
this can stay
I
hidden from the
I do
masses.
like the draw. I do
I
like
would
the
say
draw.
if I was to play anything in this match, that's what it would be, but I'm just not gonna touch it.
We'll
But
get
yeah, at
back
least
to
that
that
has the
later.
payout and a realistic
Oh yes. And we'll talk
probability of
about that
happening.
again at the end.
Oh, hint, hint.
Surprise.
All right, we move to Crystal Palace hosting Fulham. Palace is a minus 105 favorite at home, so not particularly strong, again, given the home position. Uh, over under 2.5, slightly shaded to the under at minus 130. Both teams to score about 50-50, slightly shaded to the yes, minus 115 versus minus 110 for the no. So tell us about this matchup, Fox.
I love Palace.
Love it. Okay.
Yes. I think when I originally put this one in, like the second I saw the game, my thought was, "Oh, I'm taking Palace, especially at home." Uh, and I think the odds were higher. I think it was 110 when I first looked at
Huh.
it, and it's dropped to 105. Um, Palace have been quietly good. They have held their own. Um, like I know Arsenal went down to 10 men, but they held Arsenal, and they should have. That game should have been a draw. Um, they are playing with who they should be playing with, and they're beating who they should be. And it may not be the prettiest thing, but they're getting it done. And Fulham, like I know they're just knotted right there with each other, but to me, it's Crystal Palace is steps above Fulham here. And I know they're giving a little bit of credit to Palace here, and I truly only think it's because it's a home game that they are getting the favor here. And I mean, which they should. I do think they win this game, but I am surprised that both weren't plus money. And I wish it was because I would smash Crystal Palace the second it goes plus money. It's like to me, this is a match that I'm looking for up until kickoff. Because if that line
Right.
shifts up
Okay.
anymore, take it. And that'll be one I'll look out for too. And I'll put that in our Discord that if that one shifts, that's a immediate grab for me. Um, very confident in them this week. And I think I think this is where they start to separate themselves from the middle of the pack. And this is a game where you do it. Like obviously you're not I mean, it would look better if you did it against like an Arsenal. If they drew that match, that would be a huge boost for them. But to even play, I think the way they did against them and come out of that just 1-0, like it's not a win, but that's not something you're hanging your head about. And then um to be able to take this and now see like, okay, Fulham is technically like right there with us. If we can start separating ourselves and showing that no, we belong in the top half, don't mentioning us in the same breath kind of thing. This is that game, and this is where I think it hits. I do like everything else. I like the under 2.5. I don't think it's a lavish game with goals. It's probably just probably a 1-0 game to me. And I would lean the boat to score no. So their possession and pace of play is better for me here. They should be the team that comes away with the win.
I'm going to push back a little bit on you saying Crystal Palace looking good. Now, I do think they are better than Fulham. I don't think that's, to me, I don't think that's much of a question. Steps and steps better. I'm not so sure. I mean, they're 2 wins. Like you said, they've beaten who they're supposed to be beaten, but they've beat Sheffield and they've beaten Wolves. Yeah, lost to Arsenal, only drew Brentford, lost to Villa.
But that draw to Brentford, that's a solid one. The Brentford's the better side there. For them to play with them, that's where kind of where you start to see, okay, they can play. But again, it's the Arsenal game that stands out to me. And yes, you beat Wolves. They got slapped by Aston Villa. But I mean, it's one of the things you're neck and neck with Fulham, but it's kind of one of those things that I look at it as.
I think that's a little misleading too. But
I don't think so.
No. That Fulham's even that close to them on the table.
Yes. But they're going like this. It's 2 separate directions, and Palace is starting to go up in the right direction. Because look, it was Aston Villa. Like that game was phenomenal. Crystal Palace had them all game, and then it was. I mean, in my eyes, goal of the season so far to draw Villa back in the game, and then a penalty. Questionable, but probably the right call. And all of a sudden, it's just they're shot. And they also had a shit ton of extra time to play. So like that one, like that's one where you just got snatched the victory from. And it should have, because Villa is the better side. But Palace was the better side, sadly, until the end, where obviously it doesn't count for them because they lost. But it's one of those things that up until whatever the 80th minute or so, they look good. And to me, going against a team that isn't competing, this is why I like them. But again, it's one of those things that I'm keeping my eye on, pretty much only this one, for the lines to shift.
Well, and I do lean that way with you, by the way, as you saw in my notes. I definitely think it goes past, but I'm not confident to take it at the -105. But if it does move into plus money, I probably will hit it. But I have doubt. The value is not there for me without plus money, just because of the reasons I mentioned. Even the Arsenal match, while they did play well, only round 2 of the season, Arsenal's been slowly building match by match, so they were not really in form at the time. They're not the Arsenal of today. That would not happen today.
See, I disagree. I think Arsenal stayed the same, but that's just how they're playing. They're slow. They're a slower building team.
Well, we'll get to Arsenal. We'll save Arsenal takes till we get to their match. But I still think they're a better team now than they were then.
Yeah.
And that's more my point. All right, so Crystal Palace -105. Are we going to say that one's official?
It's
official. 1 unit. And we move to Brentford hosting Everton. Brentford going off as -125 favorites. Over under of 2.5, slightly shaded to the under at -115 versus -110 on the over. Both teams to score, favoring the yes side at -125, no at +105. What do you like here, if anything?
Brentford money line. Love it. This is another one I'm taking. This is one where Brentford's kind of a weird one. It's just ugly draws, and like a win where they're supposed to. Like they crush Fulham,
Right.
and I mean, honestly, now their draw with Tottenham looks more impressive with
It
how
does.
Tottenham have come
That's
out
true.
now.
It does.
Um,
At home, but still.
yes, the draw with
Tottenham's
Palace.
look great, so.
Yeah, draw with Palace. I put them at an even playing level, so that one kind of makes sense. Um, the draw with Bournemouth, that one was gross. Like that's where it's kind of like, don't really like that. And then to basically lose to Newcastle on a very bullshit penalty, that's another draw. Like to me, they didn't lose that game. Newcastle was handed the win there. And like that was one where Brentford looked better. And I was excited, like with how they were playing, with how they looked. It was kind of another one of those ones that was like just that weird feeling of like Newcastle was getting more of the shots in, but just they weren't good enough to do anything with. And I think had that penalty just not happened and the game goes on, this ends at probably a 0-0 draw. So to get Everton, who has done nothing,
Yeah, no,
this is
they really have done nothing.
this is a slam dunk for me. I mean, what Everton's got 2 goals so far.
Yeah, 2
Like
goals in
they're
5
not finding the
5
net.
matches. No.
They're not finding the net. It's another one that I'm kind of keeping an eye on the line to see if it shifts a little bit. But from what I've seen so far, this hasn't moved at all. So I don't think it does. But it's another one just to take a look at. If it drops any lower, like I'd hammer it still. But um, again, I agree with you. I like the under. I like the spread at a half for Brentford at -130. And I'd honestly almost lean both to score no here. I don't think Everton gets the ball in. Again, this is another
It's
probably drawn out match. That's a 1-0 win.
I can see
So I
that.
mean,
Actually, the more we talk about it, I probably ride with you on Brentford and might sprinkle on that no at plus 105 because yeah, Everton just. I mean, I didn't expect them to do a whole lot against Arsenal, but they did literally nothing, and that was just in tune with everything they had done beforehand. So
well, and it's one of those things too that it's I mean, Brentford in the last few matches, I mean, they're conceding like 1.2 goals a game. Well, Everton is
scoring
scoring.
0.4 goals a game, not even a half goal a game, 0.4,
Yep, yep, 0.4.
2 and 5.
So it's just kind of I just like to me I'll go off the math with that and just I'll take Brentford. It's good money. Um and it's like they haven't been in great form, but they have it's good enough for a game to go against a team like
At
Everton.
home versus Everton, they should be able to
Yes.
handle business. I think
Yes.
you're
And
right.
that's part of it too is the home.
Actually,
And
honestly, okay, the more and more we're talking about this, might be my favorite on the board so far. Like this
yeah,
more than Palace.
so this is probably my because spoiler alert, we don't have a lock this week because the
We do
board is
not.
kind of gross. But yeah, this would probably be right up there for one if I had one. Um, it's just Everton is just so bad.
Yeah, it's really an anti-Everton take for me. Like the more we talk about, it, just recalling just how
Well, and it's one of those
unimpressive
things
they've been in
that's
every footage I've seen so far, including a couple of full matches.
right, and this is where it's funny because like to me it should be like Everton, Luton are like fighting just for like the worst team in the league right now, and sadly Everton's winning a little bit, but oh, even with the draw, I don't care. Like they're still just trash.
I believe they're supposed to be
So,
moving into a new stadium next year. They might get relegated.
oh, I know. Seeing the
That's
the loan they got with their new backing is just who gives a shit.
Oof.
Like if they don't get relegated, I would be shocked.
Insane.
I think it's gonna come down to them and Sheffield fighting for that last spot, and it's
Yeah,
just sad.
probably. I'll say the Wolves should stay just above, I think. I think they're just
I
a
think
hair below
they're mediocre enough to where they'll hover around probably like 15,
10,
16,
16.
and
Yeah.
it'll be like them and Nottingham, just kind of teasing it a little bit, but knowing they're safe. I think I think Luton will probably know a lot sooner than later that they're going to be dropped.
Yeah.
And I think the way it's playing out right now, Everton will be right there with them, to where it's not a question at the end of the season if we're fighting for our lives. It's we already know we're sunk.
No, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of drama with that.
No.
Speaking of another team that will be fighting relegation, is Burnley hosting the struggling Manchester United
Yes.
side. Which, spoiler alert, I hate to say, I like the Manchester United money line, but we'll get to that in a
Yep.
second. So, Burnley at home going off as a plus 330 favorite. Manchester United is a minus 130. Or, I mean, plus 330 dog, and Manchester United is a minus 130 favorite.
They may be
Over
the
under.
favorite.
Over 2.5 is the favorite on the total at minus 160, the heavy favorite. And both teams to score heavy favorite the same at minus 160 in the no at plus 130. So I've already spilled the beans that I like Manchester United money line, and I suspect you feel the same.
Yep, just add more beans, man. I agree, and I feel more confident in this one. It's not a hey, let's ride Chelsea because they should win and they didn't because they suck. This is a Man U team that, like, you've seen the talent, you've seen that they can do it.
I think
And
Marcus
then
Rashford can beat this team by himself.
probably well, and so it's one of those things that, like you said, you didn't get to see it. I was watching the Man U Bayern game,
Bayern, yeah.
and it was like, I forget at what point they're getting smoked, and it's just like, holy shit! Like, are they really this bad? And I turned it off. I was like, I'll find one of the other matches that's on, and I'll watch that because it's more entertaining. And then to go back and see, they almost leveled, and they came back and they fought. So I went back and rewatched the game, and pretty much just the second half, they were a better team that was playing like they should be. And so now going into this and seeing that they're only minus 130,
Yeah, that seems like a
this
gift
is a
against
prove a
Burnley.
point game, because it's like, so like Wolves, they came back and won that, or they didn't come back and win, but they snuck a 1-0 win out of that. And Burnley's worse. So
Yes. No,
they've got a chance here to come out and say, hey, let's make a statement. And yes, it's Burnley. It doesn't matter. Like, they need a statement win, and this is where it's got to start. And
there's a lot of
honestly,
pressure on them to deliver, I think, in this
yes, and
match.
I think this is where the pressure won't get to them. This is where they can
Correct.
step up and do it.
I
This
agree.
is where I'm not worried. Whereas, like, because we've seen the talent, we've seen them perform. They showed signs of life against Arsenal for the little portions they did, but they still showed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Where
No,
it's like,
they had little stretches in that game. They looked strong, absolutely.
right?
But that's the thing. It's the I don't think many people are questioning that United has talent on the squad. They
No,
do,
no, no, no. But
but
I'm
they can't put together a
right,
strong 90.
right, and that's what I was going to say is they showed it against these strong teams, and it's almost like they're letting these, like, little teams kind of mess with them. And I think they're in that spot now where it's like, okay, we can't do this anymore. We have to step up. They showed no fight with Brighton,
No.
and to see that they did come back and made the effort against Bayern. Like, this is where I think, okay, they're finally taking that step. They're finally pushing forward, and you lost. Whatever, you weren't supposed to win anyway. So like, that's where I take the credit of like, okay, we got 3 goals. It was
Right,
heading
just try to
towards like
build
a
on that.
4-1 knockout. So it's like, okay, cool. We came back. We did what we needed to do. We got like that. That's the confidence they need, is scoring. And that's where a lot of their issues have been, is like they're not even getting the ball in the net.
No,
Get the
but they should
offense
have no trouble
flowing.
finishing against Burnley.
No, and that's the thing. Now you get to go and just take out all that frustration on shit competition. Let's go in, get the win, get out, and continue to fix ourselves and learn the one thing: we don't talk about players publicly. It is
Right.
haunting him.
Jesus Christ. So that's a Premier Betting Show official pick. Manchester
Yep.
United minus 130 money
Yes.
line.
And I love the spread at a half.
Minus 140.
Minus 140. It's a little juiced, but you know what? There's not much better on the board. So if I could take an opportunity to find a little bit more to where I can make money, I'll take this one.
Fair enough. I like it too.
If you're feeling nasty, put a unit and a half on it, but I'd stick to your unit. It's still enough of a return.
Yeah, I would agree. And we move to the match of the week, North London Derby.
Yep.
Arsenal hosting Tottenham at the Emirates. Arsenal going off minus 140 favorites. The road Spurs going off as plus 330 dogs. Over under of 3.5, shaded heavily towards the under of 3.5. Both teams to score, yes. Juice to hell. Very much favored to be yes at minus 195. No is plus 150. I will quickly begin just by saying, because it is the North London Derby, because it is Tottenham, absolutely, I'm taking the money line because it's simply a requirement as a supporter. I don't know how I could call myself one if I didn't. So that right there, and I mean, it is what I believe as well. Just for the viewers, it's not strictly blind Arsenal bias, but it has to be done because of my support. So let's let you take the
I
stage here
understand
for a
it,
minute.
and I applaud it. I would be in the same situation because it'll be the same next week for me. I lean the draw. I think this is a dogfight, and it's a draw. It's like, yes, they like Arsenal had a great showing for the Champions League. But I think Tottenham is a much better side than PSV
Well,
is,
certainly,
and
yes. I mean,
obviously, um, and just what I've seen so far is the pace of play is why I lean to Tottenham. Whereas, like, the offense, I would give obviously to Arsenal, um, and I actually like the over 3.5. I think this is a 2-2 draw.
hmm.
And I think this is going to be. I don't care about this game because I don't want to touch any of it. This is one I just want to watch for fun, but we have to talk about it. But no, Arsenal's been kind of a, not, I wouldn't say sluggish, but they are a slower team.
They're slower pace, no doubt.
Which is why I think they're letting some of these lesser teams stay in with them, just because the pace of play gets taken down. So whereas Tottenham does play a little faster, the counter is where I think they get them. And if they can just drive from the midfield, Madison is the key to the game. And if he can play like he's been playing, it's like this is where I think Tottenham stays in the game, not wins the game.
Yeah, I certainly don't think they'll win. The reason I think Arsenal will win now, you've obviously been less impressed in the last couple of weeks than I have, but the Manchester United win was huge for this club.
Oh yeah,
Going into Everton now, obviously beating Everton in and of itself is not some big accomplishment in their current state. However, their history at Goodison Park the last 5 years or so has been very poor. They've very much struggled to win in that stadium. So again, it's another
True.
huge mental hurdle that they were able to overcome. And on top of that, they did completely control that game. Everton did quite literally nothing, inches away from a 3 or 4 goal game. The chances were there. While it was still a slower paced game, obviously, as you alluded to, that's just their style. No trouble there, and then
But
obviously completely outclassed PSV.
right,
Inserting Raya for Ramsdale these last couple of games is had 2 clean sheets. I mean, again, the level of
I think
competition
it's
has
a
not
better
been
move,
the
honestly.
highest. I'm not going to say anything bad about Ramsdale because I love Aaron
No,
Ramsdale, to
no,
be
no.
quite
But
honest.
I
I think
think
he's
it's a
very
better
good.
call.
I do
Just like
too. He's calmer in net than
just like
Ramsdale is.
they looked better with Havertz on the bench.
I mean, they just won 4-0 with him playing. So
Well, yes, but
I
you're
mean,
also
and
playing.
from all accounts, he played very, very well. I didn't see the full match, so I'm only taking it to the word of um, some
He
people
did what he's
critical and
supposed to
not so
do.
critical of him. He did just, yeah, played well.
I
In
wouldn't
the
say he
extended
was.
highlights, he did have a nice
Yeah,
setup that we weren't able to capitalize on, but
right. He wasn't good, but
Saka
he
wasn't
wasn't
able to
bad.
finish.
And I think he sits the bench again to start on this one.
I think he does too. I think
And honestly,
Vieira should
he
be
looked
playing
better.
in
He
his
looked
place.
better when he came on as the sub. He looked better.
Vieira?
So no, Havertz.
Oh, Havertz. Oh, you're talking. Yeah, previously, yes.
So I think that's I think if they take that approach again, but to me, this is one where wouldn't be more surprised if Arsenal won, but like if I see the score at the end of the day and Tottenham won, like I would be like, okay, I get it. But like this one screams draw. Just Tottenham have been so I wouldn't say it's like so good, but to me their form has been better than Arsenal's. But I think this is kind of one of the ones like this is more of a in the reverse. I think it's more of a test for Tottenham than it is for Arsenal, if that makes sense. Just because it's kind
It
of like
it
they
is
haven't had
because
the
it's
huge
at Arsenal,
competition yet.
right? And see, that's where while Tottenham has played well, I mean, yeah, when you do go through everything individually, they beat Man United at a time. Man United still very much in the struggle. Beat Bournemouth, really not that
Right.
impressive. The EFL Cup drew with Fulham, not particularly impressive. They smoked Burnley, but they should have.
Right.
Um, Squeaked by Sheffield. Uh, so it's the results are there, but
Right.
and the
But
pace of
that's
play,
what I'm
obviously, and
saying.
they've looked good. I mean, it's
But that's
again the competition. Yeah, you're right. So it's more of a test for them.
but it's also the same thing for Arsenal sneaking past Crystal Palace. Like they barely snatched that one. And they were I get it, you're a man down, but still like
No, but
sneaking
with
past
Arsenal, you've
Everton.
seen the progression match by match. They've improved
a
match by match.
I think very small, but I'm more looking at it as like last year. They just had more of a fight. They were much I wouldn't say much quicker, but they were quicker. Their pace was better, and I mean I get it. It's only our 6th week in, but
They sprinted out the gates last year. I kind of like that it's a little bit slower game for them because I mean ultimately they collapsed
I
in the
don't think
final
that's on
10 matches or
purpose. I
so
think
last
that's
year.
what they're being forced to play, and I think this is their
I think
first
it is
test
on purpose
of
by Arteta. That's like you said, it's the way they're being forced to play by their
but
manager.
well, this is where I think they actually get their first test. But like I said, it is a bigger test for Tottenham than it is for
Yes,
Arsenal. Like I think we'll find out more who they are rather than Arsenal. Like even if Arsenal lose,
that's.
I think it's still more of we're finding out who Tottenham is, not who Arsenal is. Because if
I would
Arsenal
agree.
lose, it's going to be because they may have played slower and just couldn't get back into it. But like we've seen that to where it's like I get it, and I wouldn't be like worried about it either. It would just speak more to Tottenham that okay, they are for real. And then the reverse is
Yeah,
true. If Arsenal wins, it's like okay, they should have, and Tottenham's okay, like they are what they are. So I think
that's
it's
that's probably correct. And I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be overly. I'll be angry because it's
Right.
heavy rivalry game, but I wouldn't be
Right.
tremendously concerned at a loss because of just the rivalry.
Right. Well, like,
But
yeah, if you lose to
but you're right.
if you lose to an Everton, like that's where you're like, oh,
That'd
what
be
happened here?
horrific. Yeah,
Or like maybe Man U, if you lost that game, it's a little bit of a question mark
that'd
just
been more of a
because
gut punch. Yeah,
where Man U's not as like to me, Tottenham's playing at high quality. Man U's not.
they are.
So it's
Yes, agreed.
like this is one where if I lost, it sucks, but it's like, okay, we got beat by a good team. Like this is going to put us in the right direction. Like we're going to learn
No, yeah.
from this,
If
and we're going to go
Tottenham comes
forward.
through, it's because they'll have played an exceptional game. I think.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, it'll say more about them than it will Arsenal. Arsenal wins. I think it will show. Well, part of it'll be depending on how it looks too, but hopefully another step in their progression, especially with City coming up in 2 weeks. But it'll also kind of give a glimpse again. Like I said, it'll say more about Tottenham. That I don't want to
Right.
say fool's gold necessarily, but
No. No. No.
that
No.
they're being buoyed a little bit by an easy early
Yeah.
schedule.
Right. And again, betting aside, I just can't wait to watch this one. Like
No,
this is
entertainment
going to be
wise,
fun.
viewing wise, or totally objectively, this is the match of the week. You do not miss the North London derby.
Honestly, besides probably Crystal Palace, probably not even. This is probably the only match like I really want to watch.
It should
Like
be
even
good.
as a Liverpool fan, I don't really care about this West Ham game. Like I'd rather
I
watch a heavyweight fight here.
and we'll move to Liverpool, West Ham. Now that you bring that up, so Liverpool is hosting West Ham. West Ham, sitting there in the top six, I think is fool's gold. As
Yes.
we'll find out with Tottenham. They were buoyed again by some early easier games. Have not looked as good recently.
Well, especially
Liverpool has
possession
been
wise. My goodness.
Liverpool's been great. So they are, of course, heavy favorites, minus 245. West Ham 550 underdogs, shaded to the under here at minus 130. Both teams to score, heavily favored towards yes, minus 175. Shouldn't be, but like you said, Liverpool has been in a bad habit of allowing an
We
early
like
goal
to
and
put
having to
ourselves
fight
down
back.
first and then fight
Yeah,
back.
they like a
It's so
challenge.
stupid. Oh, I hate it.
So personally, I like the under here. Minus
I do
130 is a
too.
lot, but
I do
I
too.
like it.
Well,
And
and yeah, and the last 3 that they've played have all been under 4. So, like, I think it's been, I think 3-0 twice and I think a 2-1.
okay,
I see this being a 2-1, maybe a
that's
3-0.
I could
I
even see 3-0, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Liverpool love to hold the ball. West Ham possession is awful on their end. Um, it's just I would like to get a clean sheet here just to get us back on track again a little bit with the stopping and dropping 1 goal and then having to fight back because it's kind of tiresome. But um, this one's pretty cut and dry.
Well, I am going to tell you something. I think that's going to happen for your boys this week. Personally, I'm going to sprinkle on the no. It's not going to be an official PBS pick, but I'm probably
Yeah,
going to throw a half a unit here at
I
the
like
both
it.
teams to score no plus 135 because possession wise, I'm not sure that West Ham's going to really have any real strong scoring chances in this match.
No,
I'm not.
and honestly, some of the like last week, the Wolves goal, it was kind of a silly goal that just like it shouldn't have happened. So it's like they're kind of just letting these like silly chances go by, and you know, they're healthier again in the back. So I think we'll get an even stronger showing. They picked their shit up this week after a weird start to the Europa. Um, so it's kind of one of those things that okay, now we got to get back to it. We're good. Let's go. We're at home. Let's just go out and smash them. To me, this has the Aston Villa feel of like uh, I think Villa was kind of given a little credit going into Liverpool, and then or whatever. I think we played there. Um, and then coming out with a 3-0 loss. So it's, I think, kind of that same feel is West Ham's going to come in and just go right back out. 3-0.
No,
I like it.
This is a feeling of dominance by Liverpool.
Yep, I agree.
Brighton hosts Bournemouth in the next match. Brighton, again, another heavy favorite here on the board at minus 270, rightfully so. Bournemouth, a plus 650 or underdog. Jeez, we keep doing that. Over under 3.5 is pretty split, slightly shaded to the under at 3.5. And both teams to score, the heavy favorite at minus 175, no at plus 130. Personally,
don't like it.
I got nothing. Nothing.
Nope. No. The
Not
only one that intrigued
here.
me was the spread at first, but then kind of watching how they played today's Europa match. I know a little bit of their lineup was tweaked, but it just made me feel a little uncomfortable with how they played. But it only, and it intrigued me because they've literally won every match by 2 or higher, which is stupid.
I mean, they've
So
been scoring.
This should be based on the numbers, a smash. But I have a feeling this game's a little closer than it should be.
Yeah, I just don't trust it.
No, I don't like anything here. No. Next.
Yeah, we'll move forward. Chelsea hosting Aston Villa. Oh, Chelsea with an extremely disappointing draw last week. Immediately regret ever suggesting them. We even said on air last week as we were going, like, this is gross. Can't believe we're doing this.
No, but it should be the right call. That's what
should have been the right call. I still think it was the right read and decision, but it was just Chelsea is that poor at the moment. Highly disappointing draw. So they host surging Aston Villa. Chelsea has slight negative money favorite at minus 110. Aston Villa a plus 290 favorite. Over under is 2.5 favored heavily towards the over at minus 150, under at plus 115. Both teams to score, the heavy favorite at minus 175, no plus 135. Aston Villa draw no bet is at plus 185. So
that's the only thing I like here. And honestly, I kind of backed off of that a little bit with how Villa performed today in Europa Conference. God, these names are so stupid. Losing to a team they should not have lost to. So, like,
do you think though that's the nature of that particular tournament, just not taken seriously by Villa? Do you put any stock into that logic at all? Or
yes and no. I do lean a little more towards the no, but I mean, it's still, even with your technical like B squad, you should have won. So it's kind of one of those things that it's just, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But going forward, it's kind of like, okay, we maybe block that out and just roll off of the hell of a game we put together at the end to beat Palace, and know you're going into a Chelsea team that's just a goddamn joke right now, and that I'm not comfortable enough to take the money line, because I do see this probably closer to being a draw. But if I had to say, gun to my head, somebody's going to win this game, it's Villa. Just because it's just Chelsea's confidence is not there. God, their injury list is just insane, and it just keeps adding up. So I think like that's causing problems. You're just interchanging guys left and right, that it's just your team isn't coming together in any way, shape, or form. Villa have just looked better, whether they win or lose. They just look better regardless as a team. So I'd rather ride with them than put anything towards giving Chelsea credit on a win. if Chelsea lose this, like this is probably got to. I mean, there's no rebound at this point. Like this is probably one of the biggest jokes of the season. To spend the money you have to just churn out just. I mean, I wouldn't even say mediocre performances.
If they end up with only one win in their first 6 matches in any shape, I mean, that's obviously going to be a incredible disappointment for this club. I
No,
mean,
for being touted a
obviously,
top 6 team, like this is
yeah.
just unreal.
Oh, and internal expectations for Chelsea were obviously
Oh,
extremely high.
absolutely.
So I mean, it's just going to be a very toxic environment in there if they
I
drop
mean,
this
I
game in
think,
particular. But even a draw, I think, will be viewed as
yeah,
extremely disappointing in their
a
building.
draw is just as bad as a loss at this point for them. I don't care. You're picking up a point. It doesn't mean anything because guess what? The teams that are supposed to be doing worse than you are doing better and they're pushing forward and you're just sitting right at the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah, falling back,
Just,
falling back.
oh, would it be amazing if they got relegated? If they just continued to do that poor after all the money they spent? Like that would have to go
Could
down
you
as
actually
probably like,
imagine Chelsea relegated? That would be crazy. Ugh.
right? After all the money they
I
spent,
mean,
like
hey,
that would just
they're
be
at 14th. They're only,
it's
4 spots
it's
above.
not it's not impossible.
When you look at the visual of the table, it doesn't, they're a hell of a lot farther or closer to relegation than anything else, that's for sure.
I don't even think they reached top 10. I really don't. I think they this is
It might
so
be a
insane.
struggle. Honestly, yeah, when I'm looking at it, I could see them maybe climbing back to, like,
I mean, I know there's a
10th
lot of
or
season left,
11th or
but
maybe, like, 11th. But, yeah, I don't know if they can get back into that top 10.
there's a lot of season left, but the
There is.
teams that are above them and around them
Like, I could
are
see Fulham and Forest falling back enough to fall behind them. Um,
yeah. Fulham might lean
and
around them.
and then maybe one other random team that I'm not sure of that's
I
above them
just
right
don't
now,
see a
but
big
that's
turn. That's
no,
all.
correct. So,
But
yeah,
yeah,
but I don't love it, but I'll ride that DNB with you. Aston
yeah.
Villa DNB. I think it's worth it with the safety of, or at least, perceived safety of the draw, at least to protect you if they don't pull out
Well,
the
and that
win. But if they do
right.
pull out the win, that's still plus 185. That's a nice payout.
I love it. But yeah, again, the confidence dropped to be a official pick just with how they performed today.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. And Sheffield United in our final match of the week hosts Newcastle in another mismatch. Newcastle minus
Ugh,
215 favorites on the road. Sheffield plus
gross.
500 home dogs. Uh, over under 2.5 minus 160 is the favorite line on the over plus 125. Jesus. For the under, both teams to score. Yes, slight favorite at minus 125 and even money for the no. I got nothing.
Nope. This game's gross. I honestly think Newcastle's giving too much credit here. I like the under 2.5. I don't see Newcastle coming in here and showing that they're Newcastle.
I,
I don't like it.
uh,
I
it,
honestly I see this maybe 2-0, but this screams 1-0 we escaped. Because
maybe
I think they're going to come in and be like, "Hey, we just held our own against Milan, even though we shouldn't be hanging our heads high for any reason," and just be like, "Oh, we're going to come in and play Sheffield, and Sheffield's going to come in with something to prove."
but they've been bad, very bad. So
Yeah, but I mean, they fought Man City like that. That's where like
yeah.
they fight against the bigger teams and then just kind of disappear when it's even quality. So I whatever they're where they are, but it's more Newcastle to me. I mean, even like the fact that the spread is 1.5 with the plus being favored to Sheffield, I think that's right. Um, don't really trust Newcastle to get a 2 goal win here at all. Maybe if it was home for Newcastle, I'd be more intrigued. But yeah, there's nothing here.
That's out of it.
Like I would
So
like the confidence in Newcastle to win this. I wouldn't even use this as a parlay, like for money line
hell
type
no,
purposes.
That's why
You
it's so
know,
gross. Couldn't even build a parlay because even some of the favorites just
no,
not enough confidence to truly ride them. So we'll take this
no,
time to remind you that there is no lock this week and there is
nope,
no parlay this week. Be careful with your wagers this weekend.
yep,
And also, I failed to mention this though when we were at the top of the show, mentioning the overall record. I would like to note that for the Champions League in particular, this is why it's important to follow the Discord because those matches happened
oh yes,
before next week, or this week
yep,
before we were able to record this show. We both had successful first group stages, profitable
yeah.
group stages for the Champions League. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not in the Discord, you missed those. So make sure you are signing up on the Discord link below.
Yep, especially because we got some more EFL action this week, so
Yep.
we'll be posting.
And Champions League resumes the week after. So
Yep,
there's
we
going to
got
be a lot of
more.
midweek matches
Pretty much going
of
forward
high
from.
quality. Yeah. So
Yep, FA Cup will start in beginning of November, so I mean we're only a month out for that, basically almost a month out. So yeah,
yeah.
definitely hop in because we're dropping stuff weekly.
Yep. Don't miss out. Sign up. Before
Nope.
we get out of here, let's recap what we have chosen for this week. We start with Brentford money line minus 125 at 1 unit. Crystal Palace money line minus 105 at 1 unit. Manchester United at minus 130 and Manchester United minus half a goal at minus 130 and minus 140 respectively, 1 unit each. Liverpool versus West Ham under 3.5 goals scored, minus 130. And Luton Town versus Wolves, draw at plus 245. That's what we
Not a lot of
like
plus
here.
money this week. I didn't like it.
No, this is not it's not my favorite week.
Nope.
I think we'll be able to keep a small consistent level of profit here with these picks, but
Yep.
it's
Next
just
week
not
looks
one.
better. Let's
Next
just put
week
it that way.
next week will be better, looks better.
Yeah.
This week I'm just going to focus on enjoying a couple of strong matches, in particular the North London Derby. Just gonna wake my ass up real early out here on the West Coast, 6 a.m. Sunday. I don't even get up that early for work, so I got to do it for
Those are rough.
this match is brutal. But
Yep.
there's no way I'm not.
Nope.
Almost bummed that the London NFL games don't start this week, so they could at least have some dual action going on and knock that
that'd
one
be
out.
nice.
But
Nope. Got one more week.
no,
2 more.
but yeah, we'll be up
2 weeks,
early. If you're over on the East Coast, though, still an early match, 9 a.m. Make sure you have your ass on the couch for this one.
Oh, it's gonna be a good one.
And that's that for this week, my brother.
Absolutely.
So we will get out of here. Take those bets. Let's go keep this winning streak rolling.
Yes,
Lock
sir.
them in.
Lock them in.